I lived in tornado country for a long, long time here in America. And being in the eye of the storm is such an amazing place to be because it's completely silent there. We have to learn to navigate the world around us. And the world around us is not at peace right now. If you start your day on this, you might as well just jump into the chaos and ride that roller coaster around the day, because you are choosing somebody else's agenda over your own peace of mind. The only way we can change it is by being centered ourselves.
Welcome to another episode of Life Coach Code. Today I have something special for you, something that you don't want to miss. We are organizing a summit this November. It's called the Superhuman Summit, and it's from 11th till 14th of November. It's a 4-day virtual event that will transform you into a superhuman. How? We're diving into the 4 fundamental pillars of the human being: the spirit, the mind, the body, and the heart. Each of the 4 days is focused on one of these 4 fundamental pillars. We know that in each of these 4 fundamental pillars, there is a hidden superpower, and we gathered over 25 coaches and experts and carefully selected topics that will help you understand, embrace, and harness all of these 4 superpowers in the span of 4 days. So if you want to be part of this beautiful transformative experience, you can grab your 4-day pass in the link in the description, or you can go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit and get your ticket there. Again, lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit, and you can get the 4-day pass. What you're going to discover is the most extraordinary thing about this summit is that the cost is less than 1 meal. So for the cost of less than 1 meal, you get the opportunity to be part of an event that's 4 days, that's over 25 coaches, over 12 workshops, over 30 talks, panels, place where you can network with like-minded individuals, and also a place where you can get free stuff from the coaches themselves that they're not sharing anywhere else. Also, the information inside is exclusive and you cannot find it anywhere else. So if you want to discover how to unleash your superhuman potential and embrace your 4 superpowers, then get the tickets from the link in the description, get your 4-day pass, and join us on this incredible transformative journey. Today I have a special guest here. It's one of the coaches that will talk on the summit. It's Jamie Allen Bishop, and she will guide us and help us understand how to change our mindset so we become the best version of ourselves. So I want to introduce Jamie first. Jamie Allen Bishop is a master life coach specializing in personal transformation and confidence development for new entrepreneurs. With a keen intuition and passion for soul's journeys, she guides her clients to embrace their authentic selves, build a solid foundation for their business, and create the lifestyle they desire. With extensive formal education and life experience, Jamie helps entrepreneurs shift from survival to thriving in both their businesses and lives. Jamie, it's an honor to have you here. Hello.
Yay! Hello, hello, hello. So grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're gonna jump right into the questions, and
Let's do it.
I'm gonna ask you something that's probably a simple question, but it's also, when you start thinking about it, it's not that simple, and you're the expert to give us the answer to this. What is the authentic self? When we say we're gonna become the best version of ourselves or our real selves, what does that mean? What is the authentic self, really?
I love this question. This is, to me, the epitome of what we're striving for here on Earth. Why otherwise would we be human? Why would we be having this fantastic experience that can be tumultuous and difficult and challenging and rewarding and amazing and exciting all at the same time? The authentic self, to me, is when we're showing up without any masks on, without hiding, without being concerned about what other people are thinking, without being, how do we say it? Being our true selves and true to our heart, because that's who we're meant to be.
I love that. So,
Yeah.
would you say that we are born being authentic, and then something happens and we start putting on a mask?
Sure, sure. To a degree, the outside catalysts can create the masks for us. But the ultimate goal in the way that our brain chemistry is created is to keep us safe. We are always in is this going to harm us, or is this going to help us? Is this going to free us, or is this going to, our brain is set up to create safety for us. So when we feel unsafe, we behave in ways that may not be congruent with who we are. For example, the schoolyard, kids can call it like they see it. They can be straight shooters, and that straight shooting is not always what we want to hear in the moment that we're hearing it. I think of the child who has a little bit of excess fat on themselves and how they're treated in the schoolyard. They might be treated horribly, but the truth is that person's going to be 6'7", and the kids on the playground who have no fat to grow into are only going to be, 5'4". So the grand scheme of how we're showing up in the world isn't about that playground experience. However, we take it on as a personal assault on our little soul who's just trying to survive in the world at that point.
So interesting. So, from what I'm understanding, we are whole, we come into this world authentic, then we start growing up, and because our brains are designed to keep us safe and to steer us away from anything that's unsafe, we develop certain masks so we can fit into society. So, because we are social creatures, and our social score, so to say, and what other people think about us is also affecting us in a fundamental way. And our social status within society is also a fundamental part of our lives. So, for this reason, and how society is designed, we start developing certain masks that are allowing us to better function within society. But these masks are actually not our real self. And more often than not, these masks start weighing on us, and we forget who we even were behind these masks. We start identifying with these masks, and then we are old and we have no idea where the authentic selves that we were when we were young went. That's why we say,
yes,
the child died, but the child, I believe, doesn't die. The child is always there. We just design an armor around the child, and now the child is with a lot of weight and armor, and nothing can penetrate to the child, and the child cannot penetrate to the world. Am I right about this?
yes, yes, yes. I feel like masks are layers. They're layers of protection. They're layers that keep us, that make us feel like we're safe, but really we're not safe behind those masks. And here's why. When we are showing up as somebody who's not authentically us, chaos and mayhem abound in our lives, because it's almost like source energy, God, whatever you call that power. And I feel like it's a power within us, in our heart-centered space where we exist at the core of our being and who we authentically are. That piece of us is trying to break free of all of those little layers that we've built up as protection in how we show up. The phrase that came to me while you were speaking was, I am ... Boy, are those powerful words that come after the I am. If we're telling ourselves I am fat because that's what we're hearing out in the world, then our body believes it, our mind believes it, our soul believes it. And so we stay that. And so we create this experience that mirrors those thoughts, feelings, and emotions of the whatever comes after I am. So for us here at the Superhuman Summit, I am superhuman. How amazing is that? That's going to profoundly impact so many viewers of this summit.
That's so powerful. And also it's the identity comes first, then comes everything else. A lot of people believe that it's first I need to do, then I will get the things, and then I will be something. But we don't realize that first the identity comes. That's why, for example, you mentioned the example of being fat. Like fat people, if they identify as being fat, no matter how much they try to go and exercise and lose that extra unhealthy fat that they might have, they will always come back to the unhealthy version of themselves because they identify as that type of person. That's why before even doing the things and having the things, it's being. No matter how in this moment you are, when you identify with being someone else, then you're gonna adopt the behaviors of that other identity, and then you're gonna do the things that that other identity does, and naturally you're gonna get the things that are aligned with that identity. So first of all, it comes the identity, who you are. As you say, I am, the words after that are the most powerful words. So this is the formula, in my opinion. I is the source energy, is your authenticity, who you are. M is the code of putting when we put something after that, you are identifying as that thing. So you are the authentic self, then you put M, and you are putting on a mask. So whatever you say I am, you are putting on that mask. What you really are is the I. Would
Yes.
you agree with this?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I was just going to go there. So perfect segue. The I am is all that really is. I am, period. End of sentence. All the identifiers after that are what we create in the world around us. That's what shows up for us in the world around us. If we're not getting along with somebody, the I am is out of alignment with the I piece of it, with the God-like piece of it, with the center of peace and justice, peace and love and joy, really, not even justice, although justice does play a part in it. But wow, it's profound when we really think about settling ourselves into the I as literally the eye of the storm. If we think about how that works in the world, when we're in that eye of the storm, I don't know if you've ever been in an eye of a storm, but
I will.
I know I lived in tornado country for a long time here in America, and being in the eye of the storm is such an amazing place to be because it's completely silent there. It is completely silent in the eye of the storm. And some people avoid that silence like there's no tomorrow. They always have earpods in, they always are listening to music or a podcast or whatever to kind of drown out their own inner voices or their own inner turmoil sometimes.
Right.
So
That's so interesting what you said. A lot of people these days, they cannot spend 5 minutes with themselves. And I'm not meaning being on your phone alone at home or watching a movie or cooking. That's not spending time with yourself. Just sitting, not doing anything. People are terrified of that. People
yes.
cannot do it more than 5 minutes, not yet 30 minutes. And I believe the modern society, all the distractions and all of these things are trained us in a way, the modern life, that you are always busy, you are always late for the next thing to come on your schedule. You don't have time to really sit with yourself. Unlike in the past, people were probably having a lot more time to sit with themselves. Yeah, they were escaping in books, newspapers, other stuff at home, but they had more time to just sit and not do anything. And just as you say, sink into this eye of the storm. And I believe when we are talking about the eye of the storm, I love that analogy so much, because it really is a storm until you come to the center. And I know at the center of the storm, it's always the calmest and the safest, to be honest. So this place, this center is always in us. But whenever we try to come to it, it literally is like we're facing a storm, because our mind is screaming to be distracted, not just for us to just sit down and drown, as you say, within us and come to this place of peace and tranquility. So why would you say that our mind is acting like this, trying to be distracted, not allowing us to come into this center?
Fantastic question, and absolutely a valid question. The truth is, we're human. This is a human experience. We have to learn to navigate the world around us. And the world around us is not at peace right now. It's not in a place of tranquility and calm and harmony. It's a little bit in a chaotic state right now. So how do we change that? Right? That's the biggest question at hand, is how do we change the world around us from this chaos and mayhem that's not the eye of the storm? The only way we can change it is by being centered ourselves, by being grounded ourselves, by being peaceful ourselves, by going into that inner, that I that we were talking about, or that we have been talking about, that I that can control you. You're the only person who can control the storm around you. And the only way is to come to that place of peace.
Interesting. So how do you navigate the mind? And are there certain practices that can help you actually drown into yourself, as you say, and find your center?
Yes. Okay, so I resisted for probably 30 plus years going to meditation. Everybody's like, you have to meditate, you have to do this, you have to, you'll find so much peace there, Jamie. And I was like, whatever, there's no way I'm going to be able to sit for any length of time, let alone just sitting. It brought me anxiety. Sometimes brings me anxiety, to be honest. But if you have a non-negotiable practice of starting your day, if you start your day on this, you might as well just jump into the chaos and ride that roller coaster around the day, because you are choosing somebody else's agenda over your own peace of mind. And when we start with ourselves, when we start in that meditative state, in that, how may I serve today? What do I need to accomplish to serve the greater good of all? Wow. How can you go wrong with that? There's no way to go wrong with that. When we're coming from the heart space, when we're coming from the greater good of all. Wow.
So each morning we need to align ourselves with the center, to approach basically the storm, not from the outside, but from the inside, from the peace.
Yes, exactly. Because guess what? When we come across something that might have rocked our world before we were in the state of calm and peace, we can come at it from a much more practical, much more logical, much more heart-centered space. And when we make decisions from our heart-centered self, we make way better decisions. We make way wiser decisions. And I'm getting my little confirmation goosebumps from head to toe. Like it's absolute truth. When we are centered and coming from a place of love, and I hate to use that word in the sense that I think a lot of people feel like that word is overused in today's society. But when we truly drop down into that space of coming from love instead of coming from fear, there's only two emotions, y'all: love and fear. That's it. And really, fear doesn't even exist. Love is it. Love is the only thing. When we come from that place, our whole world changes, and everything, like, I think of the Matrix, only it's exactly the opposite of the way the movie portrays it, which is that all the chaos and mayhem attracts more chaos and mayhem, right? And it all adjusts accordingly. But if you're in that state of chaos and mayhem, there's not much that you can do to change it. You have to be in that state of calm and peace and love and joy in order to be able to change the world around you to calm and peace and love and joy.
Well, there are so many things that you said here that I want to unpack. First, I'm going to start with it literally feels when you come to yourself, when you come to your center, like that scene in Matrix 3 when they are flying with their ship and the whole world is gray and with clouds, and they go into the clouds and they penetrate through the clouds, and suddenly they're on the open sky and there are no more clouds, and they can see the sun for the first time, and they can see the warmth. And I believe it's the first time in the movie that we see the real world and the beauty of the real world above the clouds, above the, so to say, the storm. So it really literally feels like this, at least to me.
I completely agree. I completely agree. When you're in a state of love and joy, here's one of the ways to gauge
And
that.
one more thing I just want to add up to this, because we confuse so much when we are speaking about the weather and the clouds, that we believe when there is cloudy, the sun is gone. But the sun is always there. It's just the clouds are clouding the sun. If you penetrate,
yes, they're covering
clouds, the sun is always there, the warmth is always there. In the same way, when your soul, your center is always there. Even when the day is cloudy, even when you're feeling cloudy yourself, all you have to do is to find your way to the center, and you will find your sun shining.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so two things. Pointing to my nose means you're on the nose. I totally do that all the time because I feel like it's important to validate. It's absolutely true. When you're saying something true, I'm like, yes, 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 that's it. The other thing is hands like this when you're in a private audience, or when you're, it's sign language for applause. So if I'm going like this, I'm like, yay, yay, I'm applauding you. Finding the heart center, finding the place of peace, it shows up, it manifests in our lives in certain ways. One way that I can share that it shows up fairly regularly in my life is when I lose time. When I am so in the moment and completely present, and this isn't engaging my, I'm not on the computer, I'm not engaged on social media, I'm just being, I lose time. I could be doing an activity. Sometimes that helps my brain to release all the, to-do lists, like puzzles. Or in fact, I was actually just sharing with somebody that I do little cross stitch, little things just to, I don't know, I'm very tactile. And so as a tactile learner, I like having something in my hands. It does help to have that little bit of activity. But yeah, I can sit down and do a puzzle or do a cross stitch, and it feels like 5-10 minutes has gone by, and actually 3 hours has gone by. And it is a powerful thing when you realize that this is a form of meditation. It is not the only form of meditation, but it is a beautiful form of meditation. And it's really helpful for people who are beginning to learn to sit with their own thoughts, and sit without doing anything, and sit with nothing that they're touching or feeling or listening to, and just letting themselves think the thoughts and release them. That's a good place to start with something. Oftentimes we find that people with ADHD, or people who have a little bit more anxiety, or are a little bit more wired to go, 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 which I definitely am, so I can relate. Those are the kind of people that a very good basic beginning step is to notice when you lose time. So if you like going to the batting cages, or if you like hiking, or if you like swimming, or if during an exercise class you're like, oh my gosh, that was already an hour. How the heck did that happen? Like, it didn't feel like an hour. Those are beautiful meditative moments, and just give yourself credit for the beginning stages of learning how to meditate.
It's a form of play, isn't it? When
It is. It is. And that's just it, is that it brings you joy. And things that bring you joy, boy, can they be powerful indicators of how you're living in the present moment. And living in the present moment will always be joyful, even if it's you crying because something is over emotional. You know, you're feeling the emotions, you're feeling the wave, you're super angry. It doesn't matter what emotion it is, it comes from a place of joy, in the sense that you're releasing it. You're releasing it from your body, you're releasing it from your being, you're releasing it from your soul, if you're allowing yourself to be present in the moment.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about mindset, and I want to touch on it. We know that we said that the identity comes first, but between the identity and the actions that you're doing and the reality that you're experiencing comes the mind and the mindset. So I want to ask you, what are some mindsets? First of all, let's unpack what is a mindset, like simply said, just so we are clear.
Right. Yeah. And it's important to ask this question and ask it of yourself, because when each of us has a different way of looking at the world around us, each of us has a different way of showing up in the world. So knowing the definitions of various words that are used is really important to you, so that you can understand how you're interpreting those things. It's very easy for me to say mindset is about our deep-seated belief systems. Mindset will show up as subconscious or unconscious beliefs that we don't even realize that we have. It has a tendency to show up in those little phrases that we say off the cuff, where, let's say, how I know I've heard a few people here in Los Angeles say that Mercedes drivers always cut people off. Really? Every Mercedes driver cuts people off? I don't think so. That's not my reality, but it's absolutely something that somebody might make themselves believe. And then sure enough, there's proof every single time that this is happening, right?
Yeah, there's so many beliefs that when you start evaluating them, you will find out that they're nonsense. And like what you said about the Mercedes drivers, there are a lot of things that we are taking for granted, and our mindset basically adapts on these beliefs. It's like the beliefs are the baseline, then comes the mindset and it adapts on the underlying beliefs. I want to ask you, are there certain ways, because how I'm perceiving mindset, the mindset for me is the bridge, let's say, between the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, and the outside world, the bridge that will take you to the center. So are there specific ways of thinking that can help you make a much more clear way for you to every day reach your center?
It's a great question. When it comes to how we show up in the world, it's a really good mirror, I guess, for how things are inside of us. So does that make sense? So when we're at peace and things are joyful and things are happy and things around us are reflecting that, it's really easy to see. When things are showing up as angry or resentful or frustrated, it's a lot harder to see that we're the cause of it, because it's all the proof is happening around us to make us believe that we're right. And I laugh because we're our own worst enemy when it comes to overcoming anything that we're challenged against, right? So having the tools, and I definitely think of mindset as a tool. It's not an automatic. It's not something that comes very naturally to the human condition. We have to work at it. We have to concentrate on it. We have to overcome having to concentrate on it. It has to come naturally, but naturally doesn't happen without practice. So that practice piece is, to me, what ends up being the bridge to being able to find it when we need it. Have you ever heard of the Heart Math Institute?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so just for those of you who haven't, a tiny little brief summary of the Heart Math Institute is that they took and are still experimenting with this just to prove the point that when we come to that centered space of calming ourselves down and coming from a place of heart-centered action, things happen for the better. What they've done is they've put nurses in an emergency room situation with monitors, and they're heart rate monitors. And when they get a call that somebody's coming in, and maybe somebody's coming in to have surgery, and it's an emergency situation, our adrenaline shoots through the roof. We get, oh, okay, we got this, and if you've ever been in an ER when something dramatic happens and comes through those doors, it's like a beehive that's been shaken up. It's like everybody's all over and it's woo, and the energy is so intense. So what Heart Math asked these nurses to do is just take a breath, take 30 seconds. It usually only takes between 30 seconds and a minute to monitor their heart rate until it got to what they called the green zone, which was a calm, rested state of calming your heart down, not from the adrenaline state, taking it down to the semi-normal state, because you're always going to have a little bit of adrenaline in those situations, right? But taking it to a healthy, safe heart rate, and then taking action. What has been proved over and over and over again is that the success rate of the patients that come through the door is over 95% higher than when they don't practice the calming themselves down piece of it.
That's so powerful. And funny you mentioned about the Heart Math Institute. There will be actually like, I know they're doing experiments on the heart and how much the heart is more powerful than the brain, the magnetic field of the heart, and that the heart actually has neurons, and that the heart is actually thinking in its own way. They call it the third brain. The brain is the first brain, the gut is the second brain, the heart is the third brain, but it's the most powerful brain of all, because it literally, it's 100 times, I guess, more powerful than the brain. There will be a person on the Superhuman Summit talking actually about the power of the heart and all the science behind it. So I love that you mentioned this. So we talked about the power of the being in the center, and I must say, I'm gonna mention my grandpa. He was working almost all his life in next to the surgeon. So he was in he was a doctor, and he was the, I don't know how it's called in English, the helper of the surgeon. So he knew every operation. He was always in the emergency where people are brought up. And I know that there was some specific energy that he had. He was always the calmest person that you can know in the world. For me, he was the person that showed most love than anybody I know in this world. And he passed away 1 year ago, and he was one of the closest people to me, and I loved him. I love him, and I will love him eternally. But he taught me the power of being in your center. No matter what happened, he was always the calmest person, and just by being calm, you feel that when you are around him, that he heals you with his calmness. So I'm sure that the people, especially nurses in the emergency room, when they were trained to be in their center whenever something happens, that also affected so much of the patients, and the effect they had on the patients. So I completely agree with what you said, and I love that. So I want to ask you, what are some specific practical things that we can do? I know you mentioned meditation. What are some things that we can do each day so we can come back to this place of peace within ourselves during our everyday life?
Yes, it's important. It's important to know some of the steps that you can take. So I always relate it to storytelling in the sense that there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. And that's for each one of us every single day. We have when we wake up, we have in the middle of the day, and we have how we end the day. So if you're not already doing these practices, I definitely welcome you to consider doing these practices. One is start your day intentionally for the greater good of all, whatever that looks like for you. If meditation isn't a part of it, that's okay too. But, exercise, reading from somebody else who's come before, et cetera, et cetera. There are so many ways to start the day in a positive step, because the little things then fall by the wayside and they don't really matter when it comes down to if we're starting our day with that heart-centered space. The second one is focus. The middle of the day, what are you focused on? If you're off course, if it feels like it's going down the wrong path, we all have the ability to pull ourselves back, take a breath, and say, what am I focusing on right now? Am I focusing on what matters? What matters most in this instance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're the drivers of our lives. We're the drivers of the cart. We get to decide what pulls us in which direction. And so when we're being pulled in a direction that isn't the best direction, we also have the power to say, wait a minute, where am I going with this? Is this serving the greater good of all? That's what I do anyway. The third thing is the end. How we end our day is huge to how we show up in the world. How we end our day. If you're not writing a gratitude list, it's time. Our brain believes the written word more than anything else. So when we read, we best be reading books that are helping us be the greatest person that we can possibly be. And by the best, I think we just defined it earlier, Dan, the best is who we are being at the core, as long as we're showing up from a place of love. That is the best. Doesn't matter whether we're accomplishing X, Y, Z on the list. Those are all, icing on the cake, so to speak. But that gratitude list is a very big part of transforming your life into what you want it to be.
I love what you said. We are storytelling creatures, and putting this framework on your day, the beginning, middle, and the end, it's so powerful. And thank you for sharing this, because it's such a powerful exercise to just have this mindset and think about the day in such a way that when you wake up is the start of your journey, and you're starting it by meditating and starting from your center. And then, of course, during the day, you're going to get pulled out in many directions, like the storm will overtake and you will be out and you will feel certain ways. But there is always a place for moments of clarity and awareness and slowing down and coming back to your center, as you said, and asking yourself where I'm coming from, why I'm doing this. All of these questions are so powerful. And I know talking like this, it sounds like, who will do this, right? Who will just wake up and every day think like, oh, it's the beginning, now the middle, now the end. We get out of the bed and then the life takes over and we forget until we go to sleep. But trust me, practicing this in just 20 days of conscious practice can make it a habitual thing, that where you don't even think about it and your mind has this mindset installed, and you're seeing every day as a story that you are writing. And at the end of the day, you're focusing on what you're thankful for. Also, there are a lot of practices that before sleeping, the 5 minutes before sleeping, you're setting intentions for the next day, and this can be also so powerful. Do you do something like this before sleeping to set intentions for the next day, or is there some other technique that you're doing?
I do that because I do write the gratitude. when I write the gratitude down for what did I learn today, what did I accomplish today, what is sticking out in my mind as something to be grateful for, it's very powerful set for A, what we dream about, B, how we show up when we wake up in the morning, and C, just the calming state of being able to sleep to a restful place of complete and utter regeneration. The sleep is probably the most important and the most time-consuming part of our day. It takes a long time for a lot of people to sleep, right? There are some people that only sleep 5 hours. There are some people that sleep 12 hours and everything in between. But that reset piece is, you have to. If, when you lose sleep as a human, your brain starts to twist things. And our brains are very powerful things. But like you said, our heart is what's in control. So if we're centering ourselves in that heart space, we're refocusing ourselves to what matters. So hopefully to that heart space again. And then we end the day with gratitude, where we're recognizing, we're giving ourselves a little pat on the back, a little hug, a little, good job, way to go. Way to go. You did it. You woke up and got dressed this morning. Sometimes that's all we can do. But when we're particularly productive, boy, is it powerful to write those little lists of gratitude. One more tip, if you don't mind me sharing.
Definitely, please share.
When we're talking about a to-do list, that's great. Having a to-do list is wonderful. And it's even more important to write what we call a to-do list, which means that, okay, to do, we have X, Y, and Z. We may or may not have accomplished 3 things on a list of 10, but our to-do list is where we get to write all the things that we actually did do today. So, wow, does that change your mindset around, yes, you got 3 things on a 10 long list done. That's amazing. Look at all the other things you got done as well that weren't even on the list.
That's so powerful technique, by the way, to actually shift your mind, because when we have a to-do list, our mind is focused on what we did and what we didn't do. But to focus your mind on what you did and what else you did that you didn't even plan to do today, it makes you so much more productive. Even though you didn't plan to do these things, you still did it. And this productivity and sense of achievement translates to other things. And this mindset will help you actually do a lot more things.
Absolutely true. 100%.
I know there was a practice I did, and I will come back to this, how the mindset is actually putting us, we talked about the matrix, and what I believe and what I found to be true is that our mindset is like the framework of when we are put inside the matrix. Through our mindset is how we are put inside the matrix, through our mind. What we actually are, and we spoke about this, our center is pure awareness. And I came to realization for this when I did an exercise. I was attending a 12-month transformational coaching program, and each month we have certain challenges that we needed to do. And 1 month we had a challenge that we needed to, in the span of 4 hours, we needed to take away 1 sense at a time. In 30 minutes, then take another sense. So we started by being blindfolded, then by taking away our sound capability. Of course, we cannot taste. Then we put gloves on our hands so we cannot touch. And finally, we cannot smell. What I realized, when you sit with yourself and you are detached from all your senses, basically, all you're left with is your mind and the thoughts in your mind. And you hear their chatter, but when they don't have stimuli to perceive from the outside world, when they don't have data and information, because if you don't see, if you don't hear, if you don't taste, don't touch, don't smell, your mind is not fed by any information. It needs to recreate information. So you start imagining, thinking about different things. But when you leave the mind like this, in a few minutes, it calms down like a water. And what you realize that behind this chatter is just pure awareness, nothing else. It's just pure awareness that attaches onto this world through our senses, through our mind and mindset, and then perceives the data and reconstructs the world. So this pure awareness is who you are. That's the I, that's the center of the storm, the eye of the storm, as we said. And in between comes the mindset, the belief system, of course, the mindset on top. The mindset is what translates the world around you to what it is, how you're perceiving it. And the mind, we all know that is the most powerful tool ever created by nature. And we are truly, like, brutally underestimating how powerful the mind is. Yeah, we say the heart is 100 times more powerful magnetically, but we brutally underestimate how powerful actually the mind is. So the mind literally has over 200 known biases. Biases are programs that your mind develops to save energy or to find meaning in places where you don't have information to get meaning, or to make a quick decision. All of these shortcuts about reality, the mind invents programs that has proven to work to give you a sense of what reality is. Not necessarily that that is the reality. An example of this is the confirmation bias. There are certain beliefs you have, and whenever somebody is attacking those beliefs, you tend to not perceive the real data and information in their argument. Why? Because your mind wants to save energy, doesn't have time to reconstruct your beliefs, so it's much easier to just neglect all the data that's coming that's contradicting your beliefs. Another thing, another bias is when you go, for example, in a store and there is a shirt and you're already buying the shirt, and then you find a stain on the shirt. But because you already bought the shirt, you are justifying to yourself that the shirt is good, actually, that you're going to wear it, that it's going to serve you somehow. Why? Because the mind doesn't want to be in loss. So you will justify things. So the mind is always tweaking your reality in a way that's not harmful to you, in a way that helps you exist and live in this world and perceive enough of the reality that it's fine for you and fine for your story that you're telling to yourself. But it doesn't mean that it's telling you the real reality. It's always shaping, always tweaking. So that's why it's so important to come into your awareness, into your center, because that's the only real thing. And you will, if you want, you can try this exercise. You will feel that's the most real thing when you are actually coming back into the place. So I want to ask you, I know I went on a rant a little bit now, but I want to ask you, in your opinion, the mind is a powerful tool. How to use the mind in the most effective way possible so it's serving us. It's not actually going against us, but it's serving us.
Fantastic question. I love your rampage. It was fantastic. Excellent soapbox moment. Okay, so when it comes to mindset, some of the tools that we can use are that just asking questions. So it's kind of like when we're arguing with somebody. If we're arguing with somebody and we are not seeing their point of view, it's very difficult to see somebody's point of view, like you were saying, when you have a mindset that you are right? It's very, very hard to see somebody else's point of view. But if we come at it from, why is it that you believe that? Or how did you come to this decision? Or what made you believe this way? Those are the questions that can really get to the heart of the argument. Let's just say, argument is a great way to gauge where we're at in the world. But those questions can really bring light to the fact that you're probably not even arguing. You're probably not seeing things differently. You're just coming at it from different perspectives and different angles. And even if you're not seeing it the same way, it's okay to disagree. Something that we have lost as a human society is this ability to agree to disagree. And it is a powerful place to be. And it's an important place to be. It's part of the thing that creates peace in the world is we don't agree, but I still love who you are. I still love you as a human being. I still appreciate that you're trying to make your experience a better experience.
Just being aware of this, just being aware of the workings of the mind is actually helping us to approach the world in a different way. And yeah, I know it's tricky because your mind is what translates reality for you, but there is an interesting concept, and at Life Coach Code we believe in this, that there are 4 fundamental pillars, as we say, and the Superhuman Summit we're going to address each of them. The modern world is mostly designed, and we are experiencing life mostly 90% through the mind. We are neglecting the other 3 pillars: the body, the heart, and the spirit. But when you think about it, the mind is the only pillar that's allowed and that can go to the past, to the present, imagine futures. So it's not really static in the present moment, in who you are, where you are, because the mind receives data and constructs reality. Probably most people never even felt the world through a different pillar, through the pillar of the body or the heart or even the spirit. Nobody. And when you think about it, the body is the only pillar that's always grounded in the present moment, right? Try to be somewhere else than the present with your body. You cannot. You are always in the present. This is the vessel that is guiding you through time, your body. So that's why a lot of practices, when they say to come into the present moment, are practices to actually help you come back to your body, because your body is the vessel of the present moment. So are you using certain practices like this in your life to come back to your body?
Absolutely. And that's so I hate to keep going back to meditation, but meditation is the I don't know if it's the catalyst or if it's the center of decision making. And so when we go about making decisions in the world, like things like what to eat, and I'm just going to use what to eat because it has to do with the body. When we're nourishing the body with healthy foods and behaviors, then we're elevating ourselves, we're elevating our spirit, we're elevating our mind, we're elevating our body, we're definitely elevating the physical nature around us. So when we start with that meditative piece, and then journaling can be really helpful. Asking yourself questions. If you're in a state of confusion, or I often deal with people who are in a state of frustration. So they're frustrated about relationship or business, or things aren't going exactly as planned. Frustration has a tendency to show up in my clients' experience a lot. When we're in that state, the only way to get out of it is to examine it, in my mind, because we come from that logical place. As a human living on this earth in this time, in order to be in the center of existence, which is the I, which is the peace and the joy and the love, we have to examine the things around us in order to be able to make sense of it. Otherwise, why would we be human? We would be an angel. We would be some other entity in the universe, in the cosmos. To have a human experience, it's enjoying the journey. It's enjoying the experience. So if something's not making sense, examine it, get down to the heart of what it is that it's shaking in you, that's making you think of it as a frustrating experience or a negative experience, or whatever it is, however it serves you. That thinking brain, for me, is a really powerful place to be, because we have complete control over it. We have complete control over it, even if we don't feel like we do sometimes. practicing things like journaling, practicing things like meditation, practicing body work, exercise, yoga, physically exerting yourself. I walk dogs. I love walking dogs. That's part of my little exercise program because it serves me. It brings me joy. And, how can you not want to do more joyful things? That's kind of the whole goal of being human, bringing yourself joy. And therefore it trickles around you to all the other people, all the other experiences.
Definitely. And it's so interesting that you said that there are certain practices that you do that are bringing you back into this space, right? Walking dogs, for example, or whatever, you can find it in your day. What's the thing that brings you back, as you said previously, to play, where time goes fast? So I like the mind. It's so interesting that the mind is the one thing that we have full control over, yet is the one thing that is making the most problems and makes us feel like we have the least control over it, right? It's
so true.
It's so interesting. And
it's so true. But sorry, I'm like bursting at the seams to tell you this. The thing is, we do have control over it. We just don't take control, and we don't know how to because we don't practice it. If we don't practice it, how are we going to get good at it? It doesn't come naturally. So it is something that has to be practiced. It's something that has to be, and when you start a meditative practice, you don't take 20 minutes in your first session. You're lucky if you can take 30 minutes or 30 seconds in a first time practicing meditation. You increase it by increments that feel comfortable to increase the experience of getting further and further to that heart-centered space. 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute, 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes. That's a 5-day program right there, y'all, for brand new people who have never experienced meditation. It's not, you don't jump from nothing to expert in anything, really. You have to start creating that habit. You were talking about habits earlier, and 20 days is a really good, solid amount. 21 days is even better. A month. You challenge yourself to do it for 30 seconds each day, to meditate, to get to that heart-centered space. And what meditation looks like for most people, not everybody, but for most people, is allowing your thoughts to come and then releasing them. Allowing them to come and then blessing and releasing them. Like, the first time I sat down to do a meditation, I sat down and the instant the to-do list comes up, because that's very comfortable. That's a very comfortable place. Like, oh, you're sitting here in meditation, but you really should be doing the dishes, because 30 seconds from now, you're not going to have enough time to do the dishes because we need to walk out the door and take the kids to school and do this and do that and do whatever, right? So all of that monkey chatter goes on in your brain when you first sit down to do these things, or to meditate, to quiet the brain. And of course, all the chaos and mayhem is going to come up, but you have to let it go. You're like, thank you very much, brain, for reminding me that I need to do the dishes before we leave the house. I'm on it. You may let that go now. I don't need to be thinking that right now. Right now, we're in a state of peace. Right now, we're letting our mind be free of all thoughts.
That's the trick of the mind, isn't it? We try to control the mind, but like we are trying to control an object. Take it,
yes.
Or tweak it, make it. But actually, the mind is like water. That's the analogy we have at Life Coach. The mind is literally like water. And a lot of us are trying to clean water. We are trying to organize water and make the water perfect. We are perfectionists. How you control water? You are guiding the water. You are
right.
doing
yes.
certain things and let the water flow, right? So you are not consciously bringing the water from one place to another. You need to have a container to do that, or you need to have some tube that you constructed and let the water flow and arrive to the place that you want it to arrive. That's how you control water. That's how you control your mind. You are not focused on the specific micro details. You just design the container and let the water flow. And what most people don't understand about meditation is that they try to control it. Meditation is the opposite thing. You need to allow your mind to flow, and then it will arrive naturally to the destination it's flowing towards. If you design the specific tube, in the practical terms, if you put the right intention. So if you put intention to come back to your center, sit with yourself and allow your mind to flow like water. Don't try to control it like an object, control it like a water. Just put it in the container, let it flow, and trust that it will arrive where you want it to arrive.
I love that. That's fantastic advice. But yeah, meditation is a beautiful way, and it is really, it is my go-to. It is my go-to when I'm starting to feel anxiety or out of control. It's funny that you say that, because I almost can't remember when meditation was trying to control me, or when my thoughts were trying to control me in it. Now I go to it to release control. But it didn't always happen that way. So it's hard to explain that to somebody who's new to it. But as a practice, as something that you get used to, as something that your mind even gets used to it. Your mind understands that this is not the end all be all of existence. You can let things go and just allow yourself to sit. Oftentimes in the movie and book Eat, Pray, Love, where she learns to meditate in this book, and one of the things that she does is she sits in the garden, and there's a bee that comes to sting her, and then all the bees start to sting her. How do you stay in a state of meditation when you're getting stung by bees? That was the most profound question in the whole wide world that I had ever heard when I came across this book. Was, how would you? Oh my gosh, that would hurt. But let me tell you something, when you're actually in a state of meditation, the body wouldn't even feel it. You're so almost outside of the human experience that you wouldn't feel it. Don't get me wrong, it does not put you in a state of fear, or it should not put you in a state of fear. If your house catches on fire, believe me when I tell you, you will come out of the meditation and take care of business. It's not like it. But anyway, I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm just, rest assured, meditation is like this center of existence that people talk about underestimating the power of the meditative experience, just in the sense that when you're outside of, and you're open to receiving information, and you're allowing things to flow, like you said, and the thoughts ebb and flow and come and go. And boy, is it profound, the things that you come across. Boy, is it profound, the thoughts and feelings and emotions that you have. And they can very much be fantastic guides in how we're showing up and what next steps are. Let's say you're in a business situation where you're not 100% sure which step to take next, which task on your to-do list is going to serve the business for the greatest experience. Maybe you're like picking and choosing between 2 or 3 tasks on that list, and you're really like, well, if I get this one done, and you're stuck in that. Take 30 seconds, take a couple of deep breaths, just center yourself in that. What would serve the greatest good of my business at this point? It will come to you with practice. It's almost an instant, like, oh, okay, duh. Of course, that one is the first one that I need to do.
Love what you said. So let's summarize, and I'm going to try to summarize and recap. So we are born. It's the authentic self. It's I. As we grow old, as we integrate into society, our mind develops certain masks to protect us from the world around us, from the dynamics of society, because we're complex creatures and social structures and all those things affects us. So we develop masks, we put on masks, and then we start identifying with different things, with what type of food we eat, with what type of car we drive, with what type of social status we have. So we start identifying with these things, with how our body looks, and these are the masks. This is the words after the I am. What we really are is the I in the I am. And this is the center, the eye of the storm. In order to come back to this eye of the storm, there are certain practices that we can do each day, like waking up, meditating, coming back to the peace within ourselves. Then, as you said, we can maybe put a framework on our day, because we're storytelling creatures. It can be like a story, like the morning is the beginning, afternoon is the middle, the night is the end. In each of these parts, you can come back and readjust and ask yourself whether you're in the center or not. When you realize all that you are is this pure awareness that's taking data from your senses and reconstructing the world, that's when you actually approach the world from your center, from your place. So this is your authentic self. The mindsets that you have are the bridge to this center. This being said, I want a little bit glimpse to your talk on the Superhuman Summit. So you will focus mostly around this, right? You will focus mostly around how people can actually become their most authentic selves, their best selves. Can you share us quickly, because we have not a lot of time, like what, some glimpse about what people can expect from you in the Superhuman Summit?
Absolutely, I would be honored. The best self is showing up with love and grace, both for yourself and for others. Oftentimes we get confused about putting our agendas first or putting our expectations out into the world. And so how do we curve those so that they're a little bit softer, a little bit less harsh, in order to be able to accommodate all of the moving parts of any given experience in our human life, whether it's personal, whether it's professional, whether it's emotional, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a matter of centering yourself, coming back to that place of your heart-centered space, and beyond. There are steps and tricks and all that kind of good stuff that I'll definitely share during the summit. So stay tuned.
Love that. So exciting. And I'm gonna mention that when you are embodying this mindset, that's a bridge from your center, and from there you're experiencing the world. And you have this mindset, it's like a tube, like a wall that's not allowing you to succumb into the everyday busyness and get away from your center. When you construct this mindset, you will literally feel like a superhuman, because you are approaching the world from this center where you are the most powerful from. And this, everything we talked today with Jamie, is just a glimpse of the real superpower of the mind. And only if you come to this summit, you will understand the real superpower, and you can embrace it and harness it. Because within the summit, we're going to share information that is going to poke at the real superpower of the mind from different angles, so you can really understand it, embrace it, and harness it. So if you want to get your ticket, your 4-day pass, you can go to the link in the description and you can get it there, or you can go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit and get it from there. Again, there were over 25 coaches, over 12 workshops, panels, a lot of networking opportunities to network with like-minded individuals, a lot of free gifts that the coaches will give themselves to you, like free ebooks, free programs, free one-on-one sessions. All of these things you can get for the price less than one meal. So this is the most extraordinary and unmissable event of the year that you can get your access to by going to the link in the description or going to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit. I'm so excited, Jamie. I cannot wait for your talk on the summit. I cannot wait for the summit itself. Thank you for being part of this podcast. Do you have anything? Where can people actually find you if they want to get in contact with you?
Absolutely wonderful. I'm so thrilled to be part of this. So thank you very much for allowing me to participate. Anybody can reach me by entering the hashtag in whatever search engine you're on, hashtag Jamie Allen Bishop, and you'll find all things Jamie Allen Bishop.
Oh, that's so easy. So easy and simple, and it makes it even better for people who would like to get connected with you. So thank you again for being part of this podcast. Thank you again for being part of the summit. We are honored. Everybody who wants to become a superhuman can get the tickets from the link in the description or lifecoachco.com/superhuman summit. We're going to see you in there and see you in the next episode also.